The opinions expressed on this program are those of the participants and do not necessarily reflect those of Cable 14, its sponsors, or its shareholders, Cogeco Cable, Shaw Cable, and Source Cable Limited.
Hi, I'm Laura Babcock, and you're watching The O Show. We're joined, of course, with Loren Lieberman. We'll say hi to Loren in just a second. First, let me tell you what's coming up on the program. There's so much to talk about. First, we've got to talk about the Premier. Shocking announcement that he is resigning and proroguing the legislature. What's that mean for Hamilton? We'll get into that. Also, a charge of corruption on council, but are there the facts to back it up? We're going to talk about the licensing of apartments, illegal rental units in this city. It's a pretty big deal when you hear the numbers. And also the fallout on the stadium reveal. Will Hamilton ever accept the Pan Am plan? Plus, we're going to have all of our way to goes and some updates on some important issues coming up. But first, let's say hi to Loren.
How are you?
Good. How are you?
I'm good.
I'm really good, because as way of an update, you saw the thing on the SOS and the Spec this morning? Mm-hmm. Yeah, you know what? The T-shirt campaign for the girls of Linwood Charlton went up a notch today. The Hamilton Spectator, Matt Jelly's local radio show, and a number of others have been really supporting this campaign. And part of it is, of course, that as by way of update, it went to the OMB today for the first hearing, a sort of a pre-trial hearing, if you will. And as I understand, the latest that came out of that was there's a ruling that the actual case will go forward at the OMB on March 23rd, but the judge has not yet decided whether or not the Human Rights Commission of Ontario will have any standing. He's going to make that decision next week. So that's the latest on that campaign. And as you saw, Lauren, there was some good coverage this morning in the Hamilton Spectator on it. I've since heard from a number of different locations that want to help sell the shirts. So in addition to, as we announced last week, History and Heritage, Graham Crawford's place down on James Street North, Upper Gauge Garage on the Mountain is planning on selling them. So is Picks and Licks, I believe it's called. It's the music store downtown on Locke Street, as well as an organization in the McMaster Student Center. Picks and Sticks, that's it. And as well as an organization in the McMaster Student Center. There is a new Facebook group page up for the SOS Stomp Out Stigma campaign, and you can go there for all the updates on who's selling the shirts and where you can get them. So thanks to everybody who's supporting that cause.
And Laura, I braved the beration and cold shoulder and went to History and Herstory and got my shirt. So
you did. You went and bought a shirt at Graham's place, but
Absolutely.
You missed him because he was away. But thank you for buying the shirt, Lauren. I
My
appreciate
pleasure,
it.
and everyone should.
Everyone should, exactly. And I think everybody will. I had to order more stock.
Good.
Okay, so that's the SOS campaign, and we'll keep you apprised as we get closer to that hearing. Another important update, we've been talking a lot about the casino the last few weeks, and as you know, we told you last week that Council was going to do a phone survey across the city, and as well as some community town halls, if you will, and we told you about one that Councillor Jason Farr was going to be hosting at City Hall. That happened. The results were surprising to Councillor Farr in terms of there's a big attendance out. I think probably he anticipated that, but a lot of the people who were there that evening were opposed to a casino in the core. Now, that's different than the phone survey he had done earlier in his ward. So he has concluded from that he needs to listen more on the issue of the casino. And I think it's fascinating. Lauren, what did you think when you saw those results?
I think that you can't just sample 150 people and assume that's what your ward or what the city wants. I still have a problem with making council's decisions based on the loudest of the minorities to do so. It's very easy to be against casino. It's very difficult to stand up and say, I love gambling. Mm-hmm. It's not my favorite process.
Well, Larry Deanne certainly has done that, and I asked him on Twitter.
He's a brave man. Well,
I asked him on Twitter if he was being paid as a consultant, because he does some consultancy stuff on the side, and he told me that no, he was not. He wrote that op-ed piece, pro-casino, without being paid. So I wanted to get that on the record, because we're going back and forth on Twitter about it, which we often do. Follow us on Twitter if you want to see us fight about that stuff. But something else I just want to mention before we get into our topics, Lauren, is that we always ask on Twitter and on Facebook for people to recommend topics for the show. and we've received a lot of them. And I want people to know that it's not that we don't think your topics are important, we just have to prioritize them based on timeliness. So some of the topics that were suggested, like dealing with the issue of teen suicide and others, they're important to us, and we will get to them at some point here on the program. One of the ones that came in that was pretty funny, Lauren, I wanted to share with you, was somebody said, you know, remember that guy jumped from the edge of space the other day?
Yes.
125,000 miles or whatever.
Yes.
Well, they wanted to know who you and I would send up from council to 125,000 feet without a parachute.
That's, you know what, I think the conclusion to all of this interest in topics is we need a daily show just to cover up all this stuff. Because that's a show into itself.
You don't know how many I had to bump, how many topics with today's lineup. Okay, let's get to it then with the precious time that we have. Blew every other story out of the water, of course, when Premier McGuinty, he decided to surprise us all and tell us that not only is he quitting as Premier, but he is also proroguing the legislature. Let's have the facts on this, Lauren.
Okay, so just the facts. McGuinty resigns. Premier announces his resignation after 2 terms as leader of the Liberal majority and current minority governments. The reasons include more time with family. He also prorogues the legislature, critics charging he's running from scandal or running for federal leadership.
Yeah, so is he running away from all the things that were happening to the Liberals at Queen's Park? And if you've been following it, their decision during the last campaign to not go ahead with some power plants so that they could save those seats and get into their minority position that they had, that was a pretty expensive decision for the taxpayers, and the other parties were holding their feet to the fire on that. There were even some charges against a cabinet minister for withholding information about that, being in contempt of the legislature. Some pretty bad things were going down. So is this a question? Let's answer this question first, Lauren. Is this a question of McGuinty leaving because things got a little too hot and he wants to shut down the legislature to put an end to everything that was on the floor and go into this leadership race? Or is he going to take on Justin Trudeau for a run for the Liberal leadership nationally?
I think that maybe a month ago, I guess now, when we had the 2 by-elections, is when McGuinty made this decision. He wanted his majority. He operates better in the majority, as all premiers would obviously prefer. And I think it's about that. I certainly think that this is a scandal that he's not enjoying much, but there's been plenty of those, and he has weathered the storm time and time again. It's been 12 years. As far as a federal leadership bid, I think that's lunacy. There is no growth unless the leader is from Quebec. That's where they've got to battle the NDP to take a stand back in Quebec. There's not a chance is he looking at federal politics. No way.
Well, it's interesting you say that, because others a little closer to McGuinty possibly think that that's a real possibility, and it's also been covered by the... I'm telling you, I'm just saying.
Not at this go-round, perhaps a la Ed Broadbent coming back
it'd be
a generation from now.
It'd be interesting to see Daddy Dalton up against the young upstart Trudeau. It'd be a fascinating race, so I'm not quite going to say that that's not going to happen.
No.
But I do disagree with you. I think that if you look at why those by-elections were lost, some could make the argument it was because of the tough stance that McGuinty was taking with the teachers, essentially as the education premier, really eroding that relationship. If you look at the austerity agenda that he was putting forward, it was getting the public sector unions upset with him. And now, of course, all of this coming out about a pretty cynical move that they made, a political move with those power plants. I know you say he's weathered storms in the past. Certainly they have, with e-health and everything else. But this, I think, was compounding on itself. And what is his legacy, Lauren, quickly, after all this?
His legacy is going to be the major chunks of legislation he got through, from all-day kindergarten to the Greenbelt Act, making sure that development didn't expand. He's been great for the environment. He has been solid for education, the best we've had since Bill Davis. I think as Hamiltonians, we owe this man a debt of gratitude that we haven't been a very liberal city provincially for some time, and he's looked after us pretty good. And I'm not a liberal.
Yeah, but there are also some people in his cabinet, Sophia Giulianides, of course, Ted McMeekin, who spoke nicely about the Premier today. The proroguing of the legislature, though, that's not necessary to do that. The Liberals can have their leadership race and they can still function. The Liberal cabinet can still function.
It's politically necessary.
Well, but that's my point. It's another cynical move. It's not much better than the whole gas plant move they made during the election. I mean, there was important legislation that was going to go through. The fact that they were under fire politically, they shut down the business of government for the good of the party. But that's not the good of the people of Ontario. And I think his legacy might be that cynical move at the end.
I don't know about that. This is a move that's been done before, and it will certainly continue to be used. Hudak and Horwath can go to the Lieutenant Governor and walk into his office holding hand and say they're prepared to govern. I don't think either of them are interested in making that deal.
Well, Hudak's already sent a letter to McGuinty today saying, please, let's start up the legislature again. We need to continue governing. So let me ask you this question, since we want to keep this as local to Hamilton as we can. Is this now Andrea's time to shine? She made a lot of ground the last year as leader, a year plus as leader of the NDP. Is this her chance to really take a run for it while the Liberals seem vulnerable?
There doesn't seem any impetus on any of the parties to trigger something that's going to make us have an election. And there's nothing Andrea can do further other than get more seats. It doesn't matter about what sound bites you're getting in Toronto media. If she wants to elevate herself, she needs to be the official opposition or the premier. No,
I think that Andrea is actually making a name for herself, looking like a leader, and once they select who the next leader is going to be, the Liberal Party, and an election is triggered, whatever ground she can make during this time when there's not really a lot of leadership with the Liberal Party might serve her well. So I wouldn't discount anything she's up to. It is possible. It is possible. There you go. See, I knew you would agree with me. Okay.
That she could be the opposition. Absolutely.
And possibly more. You never know, Lauren. You never know. We shall see. As they say, this was the last Liberal bedrock in the country, and it is dissolving. We'll find out. Okay, let's go to our next topic. And this is something that really irked me when I saw it. We've talked before about the Hamilton Waterfront Trust and the Bay Observer writing articles about some of their financial management, citing an audit that was done that raised concerns about some overruns. We talked about the fact that, they were promising to have a balanced budget, if not a profit this year, et cetera, et cetera. Let's see the latest, only the facts on this, Lauren. This was an article that came out in the Bay Observer and was retweeted, and I saw it on the Hamiltonian. Let's have a look at one particular quote from the article that really bothered me.
Sure. The Bay Observer is certainly leading this. Corrupt council. Quote, the existence of the Hamilton Waterfront Trust and its control by a small clique of council is a symptom of a deep culture of secrecy, intimidation, and sleaze. End quote from the Bay Observer. When otherwise good people stand by and watch their colleagues habitually violate the code of conduct, they have been corrupted by the system.
So, by their own admission, these are pretty strong words. They're essentially saying that council is corrupt, at least a clique of councillors are corrupt, and there's a culture of sleaze and repeated codes of conduct violation. But my question to you is, where is the facts to back this up? I saw nothing new in the article that surrounded this opinion piece or in the opinion piece itself that we haven't already heard from the Bay Observer. And why aren't they going then to the Ombudsman, or why aren't they going to press charges against councillors if there is in fact corruption taking place?
Well, the last mini scandal that came out in the Bay Observer about the Waterfront Trust is the double payment in regards to the Zamboni for the skating rink, which, John Best got a point there. That's more than a little screwy, but I don't think paying twice $75,000 is a major headline.
Oh, and here's my issue with that. Okay, let's suppose that there are, 1,000 little incidences of money moving around. For instance, when something's under budget, they shift that to something that's, or over budget to something that's under. Supposing there are games being played, supposing there is sleaze happening, and there is corruption, and other councillors are turning a blind eye to it. Put the names out there. Who's the clique of councillors that are corrupt? Who are the councillors who know about it and aren't doing anything about it? If this is my taxpayer money and there is legitimate corruption going on, don't just make allegations without any specificity. I don't think that that's good reporting.
I know that that you and I both have talked to John, and whether or not he's got the whole story and is giving us a taste at a time, or whether or not he's still accumulating.
Well, you said that last time, and last time I was fine with that because
well, give me it all, all I'm saying.
But what I'm saying is that last time when we talked about this, it was okay. He was just saying, take a look at this, take a look at that. Now there's an opinion piece saying that there's a culture of sleaze, that there is corruption, and there are people who are watching this corruption and turning a blind eye to it, which essentially says that there's many members of council who are involved in this. If you're going to make those kinds of charges and stay a legitimate news source in this community, and he's a legitimate news director, he's been doing this for years, then give us the names. It's time to name names. Enough. My thought on this. Okay. we'll see what the Bay Observer has to say about it. Okay, let's get on to our next topic that we want to get into. The casino. There was the big reveal on Friday. Some people thought it was a Friday occasion to try to
the stadium.
Bury it. Yeah, with the stadium.
Yes.
So what did I say?
Casino.
Oh, see, I'm I'm mad. I'm getting all fired up.
No problem.
The stadium. There was a big reveal on Friday. Some thought it was so that, it would die out over the weekend. I think it got a lot of coverage, especially on my Facebook page. I think I had 115 comments within a few hours on this. Let's take a look at only the facts on this, Lauren.
Sure. Stadium standoff. Pan Am and Ticats revealed new stadium to mixed reviews from community and city council. Council expresses concern over Ticats advertising plans to auction off stadium, which is city property, without consulting council.
Okay, so I read that last piece in The Spectator today, and then thought, okay, we'll mention it because it does kind of show the dynamic of who's in charge of this, what's going on. It's such a muddled relationship. But then I saw this tweet come out from Scott Mitchell from the Ticats, and I had to, of course, follow up on it with him. He just tweeted out, Ticats executing at our cost Iverwin charity auction for the city approved by council and 100 net proceeds to the city. Fumble? No. So I saw that and I asked Scott, so why is the Spec Reporting Council didn't know about the auction? And his response to me this afternoon was as follows. I believe it starts with, I have no idea, Laura. He claims that council knew about it, there you go, back in February of 2011. It's going to charity, proceeds going to charity, let's support it. So this is Scott Mitchell's response to the story that Councillor Duval didn't know about this auction of the Ticats selling off pieces of city stuff from Iverwin. It's just one more piece of this broader frustration over the stadium. People, I don't think, were thrilled, Lauren, with the fact that its capacity is not that much bigger, in fact smaller, although they can expand it. I think people like the orientation change so people could see the waterfront and the escarpment, and it sounds like it's going to be a pretty stadium. But a lot of people don't know or haven't decided yet if the contribution that the taxpayers made to this in the millions, I think 40 million, from our future fund, was worth it to have the stadium effectively in the same place and about the same size.
All I know is that about half my Facebook friends and probably the same amount of yours became architectural, like absolute experts, especially in regards to stadium design. And I think that those people need to shut the heck up. I don't have an opinion that really counts, and neither does the vast majority of town. The stadium is for a one-off use for the Pan Am, which will be a minor legacy, and then more importantly is for the Tiger Cats. I did not see anybody on your Facebook, mine, Matt Jellies or otherwise, saying they're not going to renew their tickets out of outrage or other. There's less seats to make a demand and jack the prices.
Now, I did bring up the fact that I had a big comment stream going on my Facebook page.
But those aren't football fans and Tiger fans.
But what I'm saying is it's not just about Facebook. I mean, I get out of the house. I don't know if you do.
Problem.
I run into people all over the place. And the response when this discussion was happening, my neighbors were crossing the street, Ticat fans, saying, what on earth is going on?
But the Ticat experience is in the stadium.
I know, but if you
like,
always reduce the objections to the stadium and the whole Pan Am kerfuffle to some crazies out there on Facebook, which is how you position them, it does a disservice. I think there are a lot more people in the city who are concerned about the stadium.
I completely have been consistent with the notion of Mr. Bob Young wants a stadium, he should put it wherever he wants with his own dollars. That has always been my position. But I think,
was the 40 million worth it?
No, of course not.
Okay.
Of course not. A city that can't afford to do things, subsidizing a billionaire. That goes without saying. But all of this, we're missing the mark on all the off-spin development. 9 times a year, that building's going to be used. There is no, you want to build a restaurant, depending on 9 dates of use, that's it.
So you're saying that there's a very weak business case period
Of course,
for the stadium.
it's not a baseball stadium or even a hockey rink. It's just a football stadium, and you can't create a precinct around 9 days a year.
So when we look at the stadium issue, I was, of course, for the West Harbour, for the idea of that precinct. I think a lot of us saw it as a city-building potential exercise. And you know what? I've heard from Bob Young frequently on this. I've invited him to the Laircast, and he hasn't been able to attend, but he's certainly sort of given me his point of view on this. And the West Harbour wouldn't work for them. Other alternatives may have worked for them, but at the end of the day, they're excited about this, and they want to move forward with a great Iverwin, great experience, et cetera, et cetera. And I think there are some people out there who have seen the positioning on this, the spin on this that the Ticats put out about community engagement, and they're excited about it. No matter what, it's going to make Iverwin a better place to go see a game. I think we all know that.
That's a hellhole of a stadium.
And people who are just interested in Ticat, games are excited about that.
Sure.
So I don't want to make this sound like the entire community is against this new stadium. But that launch did go over with some problems. That very morning, council was upset that they weren't even privy to the full plan until the opening later. I think there has to, we've got the stadium now. I don't believe that there's an alternative to go back to the West Harbour in spite of some people's hopes. I think we have to kind of suck it up and deal with it and make the most out of this new location. But it brings to question the $40 million from the Future Fund. That Future Fund has a board of community leaders, who, including Tara Crignelli from the Opinionators on Thursday, who are supposed to watch our best interests as a city to make sure that that pool of money is used for legacy funds, and it's being used as a piggy bank from council. Anytime that they want something or they can't pay it out of their own budget, they're going to the Future Fund. Is that appropriate?
To be fair, the board of directors for the Future Fund make recommendations. Council still decides on what happens with that money.
Well, council makes the decisions.
Yes, they do.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. And I'm getting a little concerned about how they're using it, but we can talk about that another time. Let me do a quick thank you to the people who helped to make me look good, hopefully, on this program.
Oh, not just you, Laura.
Oh, you got your haircut too, huh? Are you wearing Pennington's
No,
clothes?
I'm not.
I don't think so. No, it's a ladies' clothing store. Thank you, Pennington's. We appreciate it. And also Madison Avenue, where they took sympathy on Loren after last week's show when I begged him to get a haircut, and they cut his hair. Okay, let's get quickly to our last issue. And this is regarding the licensing of rental units throughout the city. Only the facts on this, Laura?
Absolutely. Licensing landlords. Council looks to license 23,000 illegal rental units to enforce safety and zoning. These units, some of the most affordable housing in the city. The city has a waiting list of 6,000 to get affordable housing, and landlords warn they will pass on costs to tenants or reduce available units if licensed.
So here's the quandary, Lauren. Do you support them going forward with this licensing of the 23,000 illegal units, but it might reduce the available affordable housing in the city? We already have a huge waiting list.
This sounds on the surface to be nothing more than another licensing tax grab, but there are all kinds of neighborhoods where people are screaming about illegal landlords, and that this stuff needs to be regulated and zoned properly and monitored for the sake of overall neighborhoods. We're not hearing anything from that side, and I don't know. I do not live and pay rent to some shady landlord. I don't exist that way. Lots of people do. As who wants to live in an illegal place, truly?
Well, I think if there are already, and I heard this from a poverty activist yesterday, if there are already things on the books that can help make these units safe for people who live there, then use that. But if there's not, I'm for the protection of the most vulnerable. Let's get these places, you know, looked after, if you will, by the city, so that nobody is living in squalor. But with the awareness that we've got a list already of 6,000. So if the landlords are just going to shut down these rooms, we have to have a plan B. We can't just put people out on the street more than we already have a problem with homelessness in the city. I'm sorry, Lauren, I got to move us on to our way to goes. We're at the end of our show. Let's do our quick way to goes. You're first.
Sure. This past Thursday, my way to go goes to the award winners, all of them, at the Dreamcatcher Foundation dinner. A wonderful international event for First Nations communities all over the place. So way to go to all the winners.
And to the volunteers who maintain the Red Hill Trails. We took a family hike this weekend. My sister was in from Toronto and was blown away by how gorgeous Hamilton was. So thank you to all the volunteers. And she said her comment was, Hamilton gets a bad rap.
My next one goes out on the same vein. On Thursday night, it was the big Easter Seals Gala, the Good Shepherd Harvest Gala fundraiser, as well as Dreamcatcher. All three events sold out. What an amazing amount of charitable response we have in this community. That's a lot of ticket sales, and way to go, Hamilton, for all your support.
Yeah, it really is impressive. I think I might have been watching the VP debate in the States.
Yeah.
And way to go to the horses in the Hamilton Mounted Police Unit for their great work keeping us safe. They got their contract, if you will, extended. One horse does the work, I'm told, of listening to the presentation to council, of 10 officers. So they do good work. Way to go, and giddy up. And make sure you catch the Opinionators coming up on Thursday night. And also, we're going to be taping our first Laircast of the new season. Lots of great guests coming in Monday, so we'll have a new Laircast for you next week as well. I'm not going to tell them who yet, Lauren, but we'll see how good the conversations go first. Thanks so much. Here's the tweet of the week, and have a good one.